Welcome to the Prairie Post. It is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and this is our premiere episode. Hi, I'm TJ Brown with Seth Cohen, who is, we'll call him the proprietor of the Prairie Post. And we're going to be doing this at least once a week, and we're going to bring to you, for us, issues that are important to us here on the prairie, in the Midwest, in Illinois, and nationwide, and even the world. Seth is a former candidate for Congress in Congressional District 9, a Marine reservist right now, and he's got a lot of thoughts about what's happening in the world as a member of Generation Z. And here I am, Generation X, who just looks at everybody else and doesn't know what we're doing here. So,
well, I guess the question is, am I Generation Z? I was born in '97. I think.
Yeah, you're right on the cusp. I'd rather have you a Zoomer than Millennial, because I blame Millennials and Boomers for all of our problems. And so right. I'm going to take that as a compliment that I have you as a Zoomer and not as Generation Y. But that's neither here nor there. I think we have a lot to talk about here in Illinois, and I think the first thing.
Well, before we do that, TJ, I think you're being a little modest here. TJ is the committeeman of Northfield Township. He's also a tour de force in the Cook County suburbs of Chicago. So TJ is very modest. He's very well known, and he's an important person in the community. So I'm very happy to be doing this with you, TJ.
Well, I appreciate that, Seth. And I wish we were more of a tour de force, because being a big name in the Cook County Republican Party is like the tallest building in Topeka, the world's tallest midget, or smartest person at Purdue, or whatever,
Oh, we're hitting on Purdue now, huh?
Well, I really shouldn't, because Purdue's outperforming IU in a lot of metrics academically, which pisses me off, but that's a different story. But they're both outpacing the flagship university over here, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think that's a great segue into our first point about the Cook County chairmanship. But before we begin, I just want to say really quickly, being in the Marine Corps, I really have to say this disclaimer that all of these opinions, views, all my words are my own. They don't represent the Department of Defense or war, however you want to characterize it. It doesn't represent the Marine Corps. I'm not in a drilling status. I'm just using my First Amendment rights. So this has nothing to do with the military.
It's Citizen Cohen. I don't know what your rank is, so
doesn't matter. Citizen Cohen's good.
Citizen Cohen's good. I would say it's not, but I don't know your rank, so I'm not going to.
100%.
But anyway, Seth is still serving our country, and we should be grateful every day for all of you who are out there serving in the armed services more than ever.
Amen. But TJ, let's get into this whole Cook County chairmanship thing, because the Cook County chairman currently is a lieutenant governor candidate for Darren Bailey. Earlier in the year, he became the Cook County chairman. Originally, he was the committeeman of Palatine.
He still is.
He still is.
Yep.
And he said that once he took the chairmanship, that he would leave if he was ever.
Yeah, and so I like Aaron personally a lot, and he ran for Cook County chairman in April. Sean Morrison stepped down after about 10 years in the role.
Well, who's Sean Morrison?
Sean Morrison's a Cook County commissioner. He's the only Republican on the Cook County board right now. He lives in Palos Hills, rather. He's a Palos Township committeeman. Sean owns a security company, Morrison Security. Every day, the one thing about Sean, every day he's out there, he's the lone Republican voice in the Cook County board. So he is out there fighting with no backup. He's on the battlefield, and nobody else is a friendly. So he's taking fire from all directions on the Cook County board. And as he's the lone, he was a Cook County chairman, and he had a target on his back, and he's won re-election 2 or 3 times on that Cook County board, and they've run some people, they've thrown the kitchen sink at him. And as Cook County chairman, it's like an extra target where, his scalp is even more valued. So I think Sean, seeing that and seeing that he was going to have a big race, decided, let someone else be chairman. So he stepped aside at the end of April.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Just a little history. Wasn't Aaron the chairman before Sean?
Yes, he was.
And then he stepped away for Sean.
Yes. So Aaron was chairman back in like 2012. He replaced Sig Vesnelis in 2012. And then in 2014, Sean became the chairman of the Cook County Republican Party and has been was a chairman until this April. The term, every 2 years it's up, and it's 30 days after the primary, every county group meets to have their county convention, in which they elect the county chairman. After the governor election year primary, we elect the state central committee members, which is the state Republican Party. But this coming April, the committeemen that are elected in March will meet somewhere in Chicago and elect a Cook County chairman. And so we have weighted votes based on the number of primary votes in our township. And the last time in 2024, Sean was looking for someone to step up. And I'll tell you, it's not an appealing job. It really isn't an appealing job. To start with, you have to be an elected committeeman. So to be eligible. So if you're going to do it, you have to. You're running a township organization.
So I think that's a good. Let's pause there for our viewers who don't know, because I didn't know this till a couple years ago. Like, what is a committeeman? Just a very high level. Why are they important? And then we can bring it back into the chairmanship.
Well, and there are a couple things. I mean, number one, if you're listening and you know what precinct committeemen are outside of Cook County, it's a little different. Right? So outside of Cook County in Illinois, every precinct has a committeeman, Republican and Democrat, or they have an opening for it. There are a lot of vacancies because who wants to be a precinct committeeman? But if you live in Lake County, you can become a precinct committeeman in like Libertyville 174, Avon 15 or wherever. And you have to get about a dozen signatures, or however, it's based on how big your precinct is. And you get on the ballot, so people in your precinct will see you, and you'll see neighbors on your ballot in your precinct, whether you're in Joe Davies County, Carroll County, DuPage County, whatever. And so all the precinct committeemen make up your county central committee. And so your job as precinct committeeman is that of a precinct captain. And then you meet with your township, and you might have a township chairman that runs your organization. If you're in a smaller county, you meet with the county, and the county chairman really runs the organization. But
just to even get lower, a precinct is where you think of a county, think of Niles Township, or county or a township.
Well, counties are broken up into townships, and the township lines in Illinois, they've been drawn, with some minor changes they made over the years, but they were drawn back into the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which dates.
Why are you looking at me like I'm going to know?
No, I'm just thinking of it, like 1787, which was actually an Articles of the Confederation Act, not a pre-U.S. Constitution. And they had the Northwest Territory, part of the Revolutionary War spoils. They got all the land up to the Mississippi River that make up the United States today. And so they had this land, and now the British were no longer there to tell them you can't go west of the Appalachians. So they said, well, we want to have people go out there and settle it. So they broke the land up into townships, which were most of them are uniform squares across the state, and township government existed back then. I mean, if you're in Lake County, the county seat's in Waukegan, and you live in what's present day Barrington, you need to go do county business, going out to Waukegan is an all-day affair, if not longer. So you did business with the township, which would in turn do business with the county. But the township, if you're looking at political organizations, you have the state, and then you have things broken up by county, and then inside the county you have townships. So, and in every township, they're broken up even more into precincts. So in Northfield Township, there are 58 precincts.
Yeah, small little slices of the township.
So in every other county other than Cook, and it's basically the statute says all counties with 3 million population or lower versus all counties with 3 million population or higher. It's their way of basically saying Cook County and the rest of the world. I mean, and they have a lot of laws are written that way, where it's sort of like, I want to write something where it's like I want to put in statute that TJ Brown gets paid $1 million as taxpayer money every year. So you say, well, for all Illinoisans who were born in this particular year at this time and live in this place, and and basically you're writing it to mean it's only me. There's a lot of carve-outs that they do that way for Cook County to protect the city and so forth. And so the rest of the counties, you select your county chairman by the precinct committeeman. So in Lake County, Vernon Township has so many precincts, and they each have a committeeman. And Libertyville Township has so many committeemen. And they each have a vote. In Fremont Township, and they all meet and they vote on the county chairman. And as a result, people want to be county chairman. A lot of times they will recruit precinct committeemen because they'll come out and vote for them in the county convention. Okay, in Cook County, so the county chairman in Lake County, for example, and right now it's Keith Brin, he has a decent amount of power. Kevin Coyne, who's the DuPage County chairman, he's got a decent amount of power. I think McHenry County, Jeff Thorson, he has a pretty good amount of power. Here in Cook County, now in a lot of our townships, if we were to break the townships and wards out by population and then list them with the counties in the state, we would make up a lot of the top counties in the state after Lake and DuPage. So, and we have 80,000 people here in Northfield Township, maybe a little more than that. So that would put us in the top 25 counties in the state right now, if Northfield Township were its own county. So for committeemen, they don't vote for precinct committeemen. They vote for township committeemen. So, and that's for all of Cook County. And in the city, it's ward committeemen. There are 50 wards, 50 ward committeemen. So I run in all of Northfield Township. I have to get signatures. I had to get 259 signatures.
And I think it's important to note that there is a Democrat and Republican counterpart to all of this, that you win your election in the primary, and after that, you are the committeeman or the precinct captain for that area. Right.
And if libertarians get 5% or more of the vote in any race, they can establish themselves. The Greens can establish themselves that way as well. And it's all written by statute. And it's weird because these are political parties, which you think are like private organizations, but they're governed pretty heavily by state statute. And part of it is we have statutory obligations and duties as major parties in election law, like assigning election judges. So we're going to have elections for township committeemen this March. During presidential election year, ward committeemen are elected. So we have 50 ward committeemen, and yes, I know there are a few vacancies, but in theory, there are 50 ward committeemen. And then we're going to have 33 township committeemen, and we'll meet in exactly 30 days after the election. So that'll be April 18th. And county chairman will be up for election. And here's the thing with Aaron. He is not running for re-election in Palatine, so he will not be the Cook County chairman come April. Here's the problem. So Sean quit back in April, and Aaron said he would serve as county chair for the following year. And he he had all these great, this great vision. We're going to have all the countywide seats. We're going to have candidates up and ready to go. We don't have anyone. We don't have anyone running for Cook County President, Cook County Clerk, to my knowledge, Cook County Assessor, and so on. So that was kind of a big thud. And I'm going to wear part of this. We don't have a candidate for Cook County Commissioner in our district. Now, Aaron shares that district. We have 2 other committeemen who have that district. We've failed in finding a candidate. So, but that's something that Cook County Chairman should be working on. And again, this is not to get personal on Aaron, because Aaron does bring energy, and Aaron can be a lightning rod, but it's because he's out there promoting, and he steps on toes. So this is not me trying to get Aaron, but we do need to be recruiting people, because we can still slate someone to run for Cook County Board President. We can still slate someone to run for Cook County Assessor. And in theory, if someone steps up, we can go out and get petitions for whoever runs for Cook County Assessor here in the next month. Aaron right now is running for Lieutenant Governor. When he ran in April, and I voted by proxy, I had another prior engagement, where I could not go to this meeting that they set up. So I talked to Aaron on the phone and said, Aaron, there's chatter you're running for governor, or you're going to be in a contested race. How's that going to work? And he said, well, I don't think I'm running for governor. And, at the time, I think Aaron was looking for money, and decided that the money just wouldn't be there for him to run for governor. So,
just to give some more history, Aaron ran with Gary Rabine, one of the largest Republican donors in the state of Illinois, who now lives in Florida, last cycle against Darren. And it's also good to note that Darren actually didn't support Aaron in the Cook County chairmanship race. He actually supported someone else.
Yeah, so someone else emerged. His name was George Ballas. And George Ballas was the committeeman in Norwood Park Township. And, I don't know George particularly well. I think he, well-intentioned. I think he wanted to provide an alternative to Aaron, but the way I looked at it, he didn't show as much experience or as much success raising money or organizing as Aaron. So I felt like, here's this known quantity, and I'm just going to go with Aaron for the period of a year. And getting back to it, in Cook County, the township committeeman has a lot of the same abilities as a county chairman elsewhere. And to be sure, I sleep closer to the Racine County Republican chairman than I did to Sean Morrison, who lived in Palos Heights. Yeah, I mean, if we're sitting in the Republican headquarters here of Northfield Township, and if I told Seth, drive to Palos Heights, and I'm going to drive up to Racine, I would beat him from here. So the Cook County Party, there's limits on what they're able to do, and I think you're more effective looking in blocks of townships working together, like New Trier, Niles, and us, and Evanston, and Wheeling, and then Schaumburg, and Barrington, and Palatine, and Hanover, and regional areas in the county. You're talking a county of a population larger than that of Norway. So I think, and much more diverse, I think that's a more effective way of looking at it. But we do need to have a county chairman, and we do have county races and everything like that. That's really where the value of the Cook County Republican Party is. There is no money in the Cook County Republican Party, and part of it is we all have our own organizations. And so someone asked me, who do I give money to? Do I say the Cook County Republican Party? I say no. Give money to your local Northfield Republicans, because we can get out the vote in Northfield Township. We can use that money to work our voter outreach, and you never can. Money is the mother's milk of politics, and we need the money to keep the lights on and keep things moving. And the state party, they need money to run all their programs. So I think the Cook County Republican Party is kind of left hanging because people are like, well, what do I get for giving to the Cook County Republican Party that I wouldn't get if, from donating to the Palatine Republican Party, Palatine Township Republican Organization. And I think if you were to talk to Aaron, he'd probably say, yeah, you're right. I'd rather have them give it to PTRO than to the Cook County Republicans. And so
PTRO being the Palatine Township Republican Organization.
Now, the Democrats have a totally different system, and part of it is because they have been electorally dominant. Judges, we struggle when we run countywide judges. And as a result, what lawyer would like to put a year and a half of good money on leave that on the table so they can run for judge where the odds are stacked so high against them? And in fact, there are people who lean very right who run as Democrats for judge. But if they want to get slated by the Democratic Party, they've got to write a significant check to the Cook County Democratic Party. And the candidates, if they want to get supported by the Cook County Democratic Party, they usually write a significant check to the Cook County Democrats. There's a much more robust fundraising infrastructure, and part of it is that they've got public and private sector unions who are donating what amounts to part of their members' dues to their party. Here in the Republicans, we are much more heavily dependent on voluntary donations from individuals than the Democrats are.
Exactly. And I think historically we've had like 1, 3, 5, a handful of large donors that have mostly funded the Illinois Republican Party and all of its unders, and that's been a huge problem for us.
And it gets back to winning. Winning cures a lot of ills. We start winning, people are going to start giving to the people in power. If we have a couple state reps in this area who are in office, Beth Colson, when she was in office, she would give to the local organizations, and she would raise money from all these PACs who say, well, I want her ear when it comes to legislation on real estate, on gaming, on pharmaceuticals, on healthcare law, on whatever. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that she was a sellout or it reflects poorly on her. She's getting donations from people saying she's in power. I want to donate to her. I'm not donating to some person who's going to challenge the one in power, who we're looking at it and we aren't feeling good that they're going to win. And what's that going to mean for us when a bill comes in that we care about? This is the environment we're working in. So let's not go out and spend our time ripping people like Aaron Del Mar for doing, quote, a poor job, because look at it electorally. I think there are a lot of headwinds in Cook County. And I guess the other thing we have is, and I call it the reverse Lee Elia problem. Lee Elia complained that Cubs fans who'd go to day games had nothing else better to do than go to games and drink all day and boo the fans. And they ought to get a job and see what it's like to make a living and stop this. Well, what we've got are all these people who work all day, bust their ass, see their money go out the back door in the form of taxes and regulations and fees and high costs of energy and everything else, thanks to really poor policies. But you want them to come out here. Let's knock on doors. I want you to talk to neighbors, host a fundraiser, or host a meet and greet, do all these things. And they're like, I don't have time. I'm working, 10, 11 hours a week or a day, 40 to 70 hours a week. And then I've got a family and we've got all these things we want to do and these pursuits. And you know what? It's a hell of a lot easier to talk to a realtor from Knoxville, Tennessee, and look for a place to live there or move my business to Crown Point than it is to get involved here at this point. So this is the environment we're in the Chicago suburbs in particular.
Yeah, I could speak to that really quickly. When I was running for Congress in 2024, and I raised very, very little money, and I had a lot of verbal support, but not a lot of financial support. I would go out and talk to people and knock on doors and go to these events and meet and greets. And a lot of people said, Seth, we really want you to win, but we know you won't, which didn't hurt my feelings because I also knew that the decks were stacked against me. We just kind of given up on Illinois. We've kind of given up on having someone represent us, and that begets more disdain for the process. That makes people less apt to go and volunteer and help out. It's not that we're angry and we want to do something. It's we've just given up and we don't want to do anything because we don't want to waste our time, and that's really damaged the ability of the Illinois Republican Party to do something. And I think that's a great segue into the governor's race, unless you had another point you wanted to make.
Well, yeah, just quickly. So Aaron's Republican chairman of Cook County, and evidently at the meeting, and I was not at the meeting, depending on the different accounts, he said if he was running for governor, he'd step aside. If he said that, he should step aside. I wasn't there. I talked to Aaron about it. He said, that's not what I said. I said, well, what did you say? People are saying he said if he ran statewide, he'd step aside. I said, no. He said, if I ran for governor, I told him I'd revisit it. I said, okay, that sounds like splitting hairs. And he said, well, I said, lieutenant governor is just like running for governor. You're on a governor's campaign. You're going to be running around the state. And he says, well, I said I'd revisit it. So let's revisit it. And he said he thinks it's fine. And in all honesty, I don't think it's going to benefit Bailey's campaign for Aaron to be in the position he's in, because the Cook County Republican Party hasn't done much this last several months. I do think for Aaron's sake, and this is what I said for Aaron's sake, I think what would be good for him, and I don't know why he wouldn't do it now, just step aside. Either say, I'm resigning and we're going to have another election, or better yet, so-and-so is my deputy chairman and so-and-so is going to take on the duties as acting chairman while I run. Now, I know that means that his time there is short. I really don't care to have another chairman's election next month to last for to be chairman for 5 months of the Cook County Republican Party. I don't see that being productive or good for our goals, but there is a conflict of interest, and I think that it's not good for Darren. I do think it's worth noting, and we mentioned it earlier, Darren Bailey endorsed George Ballas for that position back in April. So Darren Bailey, who lives, 290 miles away or whatever it is from Xenia, Illinois to Tinley Park, the southern part of Cook County, he found it so important to weigh in on the Cook County race that he endorsed George Ballas, who he didn't really know particularly well, over Aaron Del Mar. And Aaron Del Mar, at the beginning of August, he was on this Lake Forest podcast. And Aaron, besides being pretty rough on Dick Uline, Lake Forest resident, who I have on good authority listens to that podcast, he lit into Darren Bailey at one point, and he mentioned Darren Bailey was who Pritzker had chosen to be his opponent. Pritzker felt he had the best chance against Darren Bailey. So Pritzker spent money to try to get Darren Bailey a bigger primary vote. And then he mentioned Darren can't even win downstate because he ran against Mike Bost in a primary for Congress this last cycle. And he said he's a horrible politician. Well, 30 days later, they're on the same ticket. So it's a very interesting dynamic you have going on. And
I don't think it's interesting at all. I think it tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic, about what they've said about each other in the past and where they're going forward.
So you don't think that's interesting?
I think it's interesting. I'm not insinuating they're bad men. I just think they both have the same ends and goal, which is to be governor and lieutenant governor of Illinois. And on that platform, they can go forward together. You know, why were they arguing before? Why were they endorsing other candidates? Why were they talking smack about each other? I don't know. I don't know what the rationale was. Maybe they had different strategies at that point, different tactical operations they were going through. But right now, they're on the same team and they're going forward. And I think at the end of the day, who cares who the Cook County chairman is? Like, if you ask all the Republicans in Cook County, I bet less than 10%, less than 5% would know the person's name. It's an important position in the sense that it exists and someone should hold the position. But it's a useless position unless we get more money into the system.
Until you start, and everyone knows who I shouldn't say everyone, but the Cook County Democratic Party chairman is Tony Preckwinkle.
Yeah, everyone knows who Tony is.
And she's also Cook County Board President. And
she might have lost the mayoral race to Lori Lightfoot, but she runs the county, and so she runs the city.
Yes, and she's very powerful. I'd say she's one of the more negative influences on the city and the state and the county, but she's in power. She has a primary opponent. So that doesn't seem to be a problem for the Democrats. Now, they could say, well, she didn't seek a primary opponent. He's running against her. But I suppose that's Aaron's argument back. I guess the thing is, some people are beginning to push back. What is Aaron doing as Cook County chairman? Can he be effective in both roles? Because right now, if I'm Aaron Del Mar, my singular goal is to be the lieutenant governor nominee and eventually to be the next lieutenant governor of Illinois. And that's going to involve him being outside of Cook County. And by the way, not only does he run the Palatine organization, and he will till the end of March, but he's also highway commissioner in Palatine Township, which is a paying position. And that's a job that requires a lot of office hours. I mean, he's got to be in there coordinating winter snow removal. They have probably a recycling program. He's going to be putting things out for bid for resurfacing and for other road and drainage projects throughout unincorporated Palatine Township. So if you've been elected to be highway commissioner, you need to know what's going on in the road district of Palatine Township. If you're Cook County chairman, you should be working it to try to get somebody in to run for Cook County commissioner in the 14th district, and working with the other committeemen to be sure that all these different vacancies have candidates running.
TJ, we totally forgot that he was the co-chairman of the Illinois Republican Party.
He was, and
I mean, Aaron's just all over the.
Yeah,
party.
I mean, and that's something too. I mean, I would advise Aaron, be careful that you're not out there just collecting titles, a la other people who've done that. And but he was co-chair when Don Tracy resigned just prior to the...
and Don Tracy was the chairman of the Illinois Republican Party, just so people know.
Yeah, and Don Tracy's running for U.S. Senate now. When he went out, then we had three people looking to be state party chairman. John Cabello, who's a state rep from Rockford, Kathy Salvi, who ran for U.S. Senate in 2022, and she's been part of the Finance Committee of the Illinois Republican Party, and Aaron Del Mar. And basically what happened was that Del Mar saw that he had a lane if he could get behind Kathy Salvi. By the way, he's on the State Central Committee, so he's one of the 17 people voting for the chairman. So he brokered a deal. I'll support Kathy for state chair. She'll make me the co-chair. And he had already, at the county convention, worked it to get Dean White to be the Republican National Committeeman. He ran against Vince Colber and Mark Shaw. And he and Mark Shaw was elected by the State Central Committee. But on the convention floor, the delegates rejected the recommendation of the committee. So it was sent back to the committee, and they went back 2 or 3 times. And Aaron was out there whipping votes for Dean White. So Aaron kind of built up a little bit of influence doing that. And then he stepped down as Illinois co-chairman this past February. And what had happened was Dan McConkey, state senator up in Lake Zurich, resigned. It's a Republican. He has to be filled by somebody. Behind the scenes, the rumors were Kathy Salvi's son, Joe Salvi. He was interested in being state senator. Aaron was apparently interested, and Marty McLaughlin, who's a state rep in that district, was interested as well. And there was talk that it was the fix was in for Joe. I imagine if Joe was in fact thinking about running that, he must have had second thoughts, thinking this is not a good way to launch my legislative career under this cloud. So they wound up putting Darby Hills up for it. And she's now the state senator. But during this whole thing, at one point, Aaron abruptly quit as co-chair of the Illinois Republican Party, and he fired his deputy state central committee woman, and that's Lynn O'Brien. So I mean, Aaron's wearing a lot of hats, and he's trying to wield a lot of influence in the Republican Party, and he's charismatic, and he definitely has vision of what a winning Republican Party looks like. I just would caution him that you don't want to be picking up a bunch of titles and wearing them all at once, unless the Republican Party is winning all the time. I mean, Mike Madigan wore like 10 different titles, and the Democrats didn't seem to mind because they were winning.
Exactly, yeah.
Of course, he wound up, he's going to be reporting to prison in a couple of weeks. But I think that's what Aaron has got to think about.
Yeah.
So, moving right along.
Well, I just want to add, Don Tracy's a good man. I met him once or twice in the north suburbs in Lake County, and he donated money to my campaign when a lot of people wouldn't. So I just want to say that as a disclosure, but also he's a good man, and I really appreciate his support.
Don is running for U.S. Senate, and he I think is running more for any other reason than the other candidates aren't very well funded, and he can fund a Senate campaign, and he can run a strong Senate campaign. And he's going to probably be running it either against Raja Krishnamurthy, who has about $20 million in the bank.
Yeah, I was going to say,
or Juliana Stratton, who is JB's pick.
Lieutenant governor, yeah.
And if JB wants her to have a nest egg, she'll have a pretty strong war chest. So
the last time I checked, I could be wrong on this currently, but the last time I checked a few weeks ago, she actually didn't raise so much money yet. It seemed like Raja, with his $23 million, was the big dog in the race.
Right. But I think JB's already endorsed her, and I think that it'll be
waiting for the primary to be
and I think maybe JB's like looking, kind of sussing it out and figuring out, is it worth it, or maybe deciding how much he wants her to be this U.S. Senator from Illinois. But regardless, Don is running for U.S. Senate, and part of the reason is he has the ability to self-fund and to raise money to at least be competitive. And if he's not going to have $20 million, but if he can have a few $1 million, he can run a credible race. With all due respect to Pamela Dillon-Denis Long and to John Goodman, they don't have that ability yet, or they haven't shown that ability yet. So that's why Don is running for U.S. Senate. So
I mean, thank God they're running. We want as many candidates as we can. We want people invested and interested in Illinois Republican politics. But Don's the money man, and that's just, for some reason in politics, money is what speaks. I did want to say that I want to kind of veer off into the 2024 campaign. Kamala Harris raised $1.5 billion and was in debt at the end of her race. Trump raised less, but he ended up winning. We see that it's Raja versus Juliana. Juliana's kind of crazy, you listen to her speak on the news. She says a lot of super progressive talking points. That's the kind of candidate she is. Raja, though, I wouldn't say he's a member of the far left. He definitely toes the party line. Yeah,
he's
definitely a Democrat. But when you listen to him talk, he sounds normal. He sounds like a reasonable person. He has a really soothing tone. Like he's just a different individual altogether who hasn't been involved in crazy progressive Illinois politics for the last 8 to 12 years. Do you think that if the Illinois people who live in Illinois, the citizens of Illinois, if they see Raja versus Juliana, do you think Don has a greater chance of winning, depending on like the rhetoric that they've historically?
Well, I think if Juliana wins, Don has a better chance of winning. I mean, I think she won't have to worry about money, but I think a couple things. Whatever resources we have in this race, in this cycle, a lot of it's going to be going after J.B. Pritzker, because I think there's a lot there. It's mishandling Department of Corrections, it's mishandling DCFS, the structural problems with Illinois. I mean, the budget and everything else, Safety Act, the hostility to working with feds over immigration. I mean, a big problem is the reason why the feds are having to work as harshly as they are is they're getting no help from local law enforcement.
Yeah, none at all.
They're barred from it. So there's a lot we have on JB. JB's rhetoric. Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Right now, he's encouraging people to start filming federal law enforcement now. And we've already had issues in California, people doxing these guys and following them home and threatening them and so forth, or having other people threaten them. Now the people have documented video evidence of them. So I think JB is we're going to be going after JB quite a bit, and if you go after JB, Juliana Stratton, she's been part of JB's administration for 8 years, and she, as you said, she's not moderate in tone. There's a difference between moderate in ideology and moderate in tone. So.
Listen, I've seen Raja on CNBC in the morning on Squawk Box, and he sounds like a normal guy. And I know Mark Rice is running against him. This is his second time running against him consecutively, and I pay attention to the campaign, and he's shown me a lot of stuff that Raja is a crazy progressive. But when I hear him on Squawk Box, he sounds like a normal guy, and that's who the voters of Illinois are going to.
And I'll say this about Mark, is that Mark has identified, like, here he's a far left progressive. He doesn't fit that district, and Mark is 100% right on that. And Mark is not, I mean, he's not a wild-eyed, I mean, when you hear Mark talk, I don't think he's a wild-eyed conservative, like, fire and brimstone. I mean, moderate in tone. And I think when you talk to Mark, he's moderate in tone, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. Yeah, Mark's a normal, decent guy.
Yeah,
you should definitely vote for Mark Rice. Mark, we're not endorsing anyone. We don't endorse anyone, but Mark Rice is a good guy.
I like Mark. Yeah, and I'm staying out of that primary because I don't know anything about Jennifer Davis, really. I mean, other than there are a lot of people out there that are supporting her, and I don't want to play intramurals as much as I can avoid it. Especially in places out of my area. But Mark, he identified a lot of things correctly. However, the problem is Raja is moderate in tone. Now, what I tell people, and you may scoff at this and so forth, and Trump's record as president has been pretty conservative. But you talk to him about where he stands on issues. He is more moderate, sometimes more left-leaning on issues such as free trade and so forth.
You tell me, I was born in 97, so I have no memory of this. Is he a Clinton Democrat, basically? I mean, is a lot of his, not his policies that he enacts, but when he talks, he sounds like, what, a Clinton Democrat?
I'd say, no, I don't think you're too off. He's a little to the right of that to some degree.
Maybe there's a difference between his 16 campaign and his 24 campaign, because he's so jaded in his 24 campaign. He gave a speech recently, I think it was Charlie Kirk's funeral, where everyone was talking about forgiveness. And
he says, I hate my enemies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, Charlie, I hate my enemies. And that's just kind of where he's at right now. And
yeah, but but he's not moderate in tone. He's not, I mean, Trump is somewhat moderate in policy. And you say Clinton Democrat. Clinton was moderate in tone. And he was left-leaning but centrist, and he would triangulate and say, okay, the Republicans are talking about getting tough on crime. I'm going to get tough on crime. The Republicans are talking about welfare reform. I'm going to get on this welfare reform thing.
Yeah.
So then it became awfully hard to run against him when he's like, yeah, I signed the welfare reform bill. I signed the crime bill. I did this. I did that. And he'd be like, oh, well. Right. So, and I think that's I think Trump has identified issues that Americans have gotten tired of talking about. They want something done. And immigration is a perfect example. We've been screwing around with it for 40 plus years, where Reagan offered amnesty, Bush offered amnesty, and they were going to do immigration reform. We never did immigration reform, and every time we offer amnesty, you're the next coming across, and you know that amnesty eventually is going to be offered to you because the precedent has been set.
Yeah.
I think enforcement is going to lead to better immigration law. But that's a riff. But if you're moderate in tone, like Raja is, you can be very left-leaning. If you're moderate in tone, like Obama was, you can be very left-wing. If you're very, what would be the word? Radical in tone?
Sure, why not?
for the sake of like Trump in tone is radical because he doesn't parse words. He's just like, this sucks and this is terrible, and he loves hyperbole and he loves exaggeration, and it's like his rhetorical devices that he uses. And that was part of his appeal when he ran in 2016, is no one saw that from politicians except for like the James Trafficants of the world, who were just kind of amusing, but whatever. It works for Trump, and I think the reason why it works for Trump is because people knew who Trump was for all these years, and that's another thing to remember for a lot of politicians. You are who you are. You're not going to be Donald Trump. You've got to be who you are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But before we go on a tangent, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I really like to say, like, TJ, what are we looking forward in the next 7 days before we talk next Tuesday? What are you looking forward in the next 7 days?
Well, I think the next 7 days, candidates are still getting their campaigns off the ground, and we've got a two-person race for governor, and it's very weird, on the Republican side for Illinois. It's very weird because we went into August, and beginning of August, and that's when petition circulation was starting, and we had two people who declared for governor, and one was James Mendrick, the DuPage County Sheriff. He's been running for a long time, and with all due respect to him, he hasn't really gotten his campaign off the ground. But he was the serious candidate. And then we had crazy Joe Severino, who really isn't worth me even mentioning his name.
TJ's so salty. We'll have to talk about this on a different podcast.
No, yeah, maybe. I don't. Anyway, so those two people were running, and nobody else had stepped up. And Ted Dabrowski had been discussing it, had been looking and trying to figure out, can I do this? And then once he decided he could do it, he's like, well, then I have to take the steps. He's president of 501c3, so he has to extricate himself from that, and then he has to put his campaign together, his team, and find a running mate. So he didn't launch until September 12th.
And full disclosure, TJ and myself were at that launch, so we were there.
And in full disclosure, Ted, I think Ted is the best candidate on the Republican side, and I think he is really. There are sometimes you say, okay, this guy's going to be a great governor, but there's no way they can win. I think Ted can win the primary. I think he can win the general. But I also think he would be the best governor of the people in there. And that's not to Rob and Mendrick or Bailey. It is to on the other candidates maybe running for governor, including the incumbent. But I'm for Dabrowski, but he had to get his team together, and so he didn't announce till September 12th.
Yeah.
But so Ted announced on September 10th or September 12th, and Bailey and Delmar had started circulating petitions that week, and they announced just last week, and they did a fly around the state. They started in Carterville, which is down near Marion, Illinois. They helicoptered up to Bloomington, Illinois, and they finished in Oak Brook. And so I think it's pretty clear from how I see it. And I'm not going to totally count out Mendrick because he has some people working for him who know what they're doing, and they could make it a race. But it seems to be a two-person race, and both have just entered the race. Meanwhile, everyone else has been running for a while. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be critical to see where they are in petitions and where the money's coming from. So I don't think they posted the A1 yet, Bailey and Delmar, but they got money coming in. And from what I understand, Gary Rabine, who was, he had Delmar run with him last time. And in full disclosure, I voted for Rabine in the 2022 primary.
Why are you disclosing that? Who can figure that out?
Well, I just put out that Rabine was my chosen candidate,
okay.
and it was a very weird situation because we had an endorsement session where the top two vote getters in our endorsement session in our township was Sullivan and Irvin, and we were going to have a runoff, even though neither of them could muster more than a third of the vote. And it erupted into almost a brawl. So, but Rabine was my guy, so I like Rabine. And
you're saying Rabine's going to give money to
Bailey?
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's okay. He has more money to give in the general. He's got more money.
I'm not going to disparage Darren Bailey or Aaron Delmar, and
I won't disparage Aaron Delmar, but I will gladly disparage Darren Bailey.
We have. Here's my opinion on Darren is that I don't think he can win or get the right number of votes north of 80 and east of I-39.
Yeah.
It's just a very tough road for him. And I think the numbers bore it out. And I think it was bad for the rest of the ticket underneath him. To answer your question, the thing we're going to look for the next couple of weeks, who's lining up behind Darren and Aaron, and who's lining up behind Dabrowski and Mendoza. And yesterday we saw Jeannie Ives and Tom Morrison and Bob Grogan. Bob Grogan was a DuPage County auditor, but Ives and Morrison they're probably two of the most conservative suburban legislators since the 1970 Illinois Constitution, and they are
That's a big statement.
Well, when I say conservative, I mean Ives was much more of a fire and brimstone conservative on the House floor and elsewhere. Tom is. And his record and Jeannie's record are pretty solid when it comes to taxes, pension, cost of living, life issues, and so forth. And they are, and I like them both. But Tom Morrison's he grew up in Glenview, Northfield Township.
Okay.
Even though he lives in Palatine now, but Tom and Jeannie getting behind Ted. That's a pretty strong statement. Is that where the conservative grassroots are going to line up behind? Darren has supporters, and Darren is going to counter. And so I think in a week or two, we're going to see the battle lines drawn. And if Mendrick is going to become a factor, he's going to have to do something. So, but those two, Bailey and Dabrowski, you're going to see donors come in to say, I'm behind one or the other. Dabrowski got Uline money this last week.
He did.
And
it's a big deal right there.
And I think we'll see A1s from Bailey showing it. So that's what we're looking for. And I think that the result of this primary, if it's done right, it's going to be productive. And Bailey and Delmar are going to have a future in the Republican Party in Illinois. Mendrick's going to have a future in the Republican Party in Illinois. But it's going to dictate how the rest of the cycle is going to go and what it means for other candidates. So, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. For me, this next week, I'm really going to be focusing on the government shutdown. Politics rolls downhill, not uphill. A mayoral race rarely affects a presidential or a federal issue, but the reverse is not true. The federal issues really roll downhill. And to see who wins out on this bailout, is it going to be Schumer and Jeffries? Are they the ones who the American people are going to blame, or is it going to be President Trump? J.D. Vance, after the meeting the other day, came out strongly with the speaker and the majority leader behind him, saying that this is the Democrats' problem. And is it? We'll see. We'll see what the American people think, but it's really going to affect the congressional races. It's going to affect the gubernatorial races. The New Jersey governor's race is this is outside of Illinois, but the New Jersey's governor race is a tie game right now, which in blue New Jersey, who would have thought? This is the second time running. He only lost to Murphy by 3 points. TJ, I know you want to talk.
Well, PSA, I mean, two things. PSA for anyone who's going to be a congressman. So, Seth, when you become congressman, do not give a congressional appointment to the Naval Academy or West Point to your daughter.
Okay, I won't do that.
Unless she's like just heads and shoulders above
Why?
everybody.
Who did that?
The what's her name running for governor in New Jersey?
Oh yes, yeah. Is that why she got in?
What?
Her father gave her.
She was giving
Oh, I didn't know that. I know she cheated. There was a huge cheating scandal.
So that's one thing, and then but the real thought is we talked all about Illinois. And, the governor's race dictating these state rep races and county races and so forth. And that's true. But what happens in Washington will have a lot of effect on what happens everywhere else. Like, and Dobbs, I think, showed us that in 2022. So I guess that's it for now. And we'll be back next week with whatever happens in the world of politics around here. I think this was fun.
Yeah, no, this was a great time. Thanks so much for this, TJ.
All right, well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.